Welcome to our kickoff for the 2022 Powerful Project Virtual Speaker Series. I have to tell you that I would have been happy to get Trey Anthony to speak with us any date, any month, but it's especially poignant and wonderful that we have her since it is Black History Month. So it's an extra special time that we get to meet and share space with Trey Anthony. Before I introduce her, I just wanted to thank Perspective Center for Holistic Therapy, one of our premier, huge support partners for the Powerful Project, and also Brain Insights. These are two organizations that just really support what we are doing to make mental health care, mental health psychotherapy services accessible for all. And I also just want to give a quick shout out. The Powerful Project is growing and strengthening behind the scenes. And so the DeVoe Group and Strategic Security Solutions are two organizations that are really giving us support that we are just extremely grateful for. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our presenter today. Trey Anthony is a Jamaican, British, Canadian truth teller, award-winning writer, and wellness expert. She's the girl to call when you want to turn your inner shame to success. Trey is known as the Oprah of Canada, the first Black woman in Canada to have her own primetime series on a major network. Trey has appeared on NBC, ABC, CBS, NPR, Fox, CTV, CBC, City TV, and Global Television. She has been featured in Forbes, Huffington Post, Toronto Star, the Toronto Sun, Global Mail, Essence Magazine, and Madame Noir. She is a former writer of OWN, OWN, Lionsgate, the Comedy Network, the Women's Television Network, and Global Television. She's also a contributing writer for Huffington Post and the Toronto Star, Canada's largest daily newspaper. Her popular new book, Black Girl in Love with Herself, has been published by Hay House, the largest self-help publisher in North America. Trey's award-winning play, The Kink in My Hair, has received 4 NAACP awards, including Best New Playwright. The Kink has broken box office sales records in Canada, England, and the United States. Like, I have the chills. Its gross millions, has been critically acclaimed, and was named one of the top 10 plays in Canada's theatrical history. Trey recently adapted her new play, How Black Mothers Say I Love You, to a film which was shortlisted at Sundance. Trey's viral TEDx Toronto talk, Coming Out of Your Box, has nearly 13,000 views. Trey is currently a television development producer at CTV Television and Bell Media, and is one of the highest ranking Black women TV executives in Canada. Trey is passionate about diversity, inclusion, and of course, wellness. And she is a highly sought out speaker. She has spoken at Harvard University and NYU, and has been a guest lecturer and speaker at the University of Massachusetts, the University of Waterloo, McMaster University, and Ryerson University. She's delivered numerous keynotes and workshops to corporations and organizations around the world. And we are so honored to have you here with us today, Trey. Trey is the recipient of an Eve Ensler Vagina Warrior Award, which recognizes the contributions of dynamic women in the arts. She also has received a Walk of Fame star in Brampton for her contribution to the arts.
Are you joining the Zoom?
She's a recipient of the Harry Jerome Award for the Arts and was recently named one of the top 100 Black women in Canada to watch. Her popular touring theatrical wellness show, Black Girl in Love with Herself, is a sold out event every year. Trey is a rock star of wellness for women. This pocket-sized powerhouse is also a solo mom to her newly adopted son, Kai, And in her spare time, she enjoys eating cupcakes and crying while watching This Is Us. We are so pleased to have you here with us today, Trey. Thanks for your time and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. It's lovely to see your beautiful faces. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think the best housekeeping things we could do is everybody, if you could go on mute, that would be great. And I would love to speak with you after the talk. I'm going to put leave some time for some questions. And also, if you want to throw any questions in the chat while I'm talking, just to remind yourself, please do. I'm good with that. And I'm currently in Tampa right now, so I'm enjoying the sunshine. And I'm really excited to be here. Lauren, thank you ever so much for inviting me. I do numerous talks every single year. And I feel like, Lauren, you booked me, God,
That's a while ago.
Like 2 years ago, I feel.
As soon as I got your book, I was like, I have to get in touch with her.
So it feels so amazing to finally make this happen, because I feel like we've been talking about it for at least a year and a half. So we are finally here. So I'm going to jump right into my talk. I will say to people, because people always ask me about my accent and what it is and where I'm from and all of that kind of jazz. I know people get very obsessive around this kind of stuff. So, and usually when I'm talking, people are always trying to figure it out. So I just tell people this. I was born in London, England. I moved to Canada when I was 12, and I was raised by my Jamaican grandmother. And then I moved to Atlanta about 6 years ago. So whatever accent you hear, that's what it is. It's a mixture of all of those things. So people always like, oh my gosh, I think you sound like you're from England. And then people say, no, but you say about, so you must be from Canada. And then people say, but you sound a bit Jamaican. And then I was like, yes, because my grandmother acted like she never left Jamaica. So I grew up with that kind of woman. So here I am. My son, thank God, right now is in at school. So we can have this uninterrupted time, adult time, because I do really cherish adult time. And I always say to people when I do my talks, it is about self-discovery. It's about finding yourself. It's about going, oh, I didn't know that, or, oh, I knew that, and I'm going to expand on it. And it's about finding yourself wherever you find yourself, right? There's no wrong or right. I like to just share my journey. And I believe when you speak authentically, right, from a place of vulnerability and a place of truth, it will transcend race, gender, class, sexuality, because at the end of the day, I truly do believe, as women especially, all of us have this need to feel community, to feel loved, to feel heard, and to feel supported. And so that is what I really hope that this is what we create in this space today. So that's how I start every single talk. So thank you so much. And so we're going to jump right into it. And Lauren is going to do, when I do like this, Lauren, we're going to get the slides going, and we're just going to keep going. And if we have any technical difficulty, guys, okay, we're just going to pretend like it didn't happen, because we just roll with it. Because as women, that's what we do. We just roll with it, right? So, and we will just clap when we get back on track. It's as simple as that. Right?
I think we had the technical mishap, and now we
okay, so we're letting it go. We're gonna let it go, Lauren. We are here, and this is what we're doing now. Okay, cool. All right. So this talk, self-healing, love, creating the life you deserve, self-love. Anybody's up for that today? Anybody feeling like they could do this with me? Okay, we're good? Okay, let's go, Lauren. Next slide. So I like to always start with people when people say to me, I want to do self-love. I want to know more about myself. I want to figure out what and who I am, right? And so for me, the biggest thing that I always say has shaped me into who I am, right? Is I identify as a Black woman, right? Queer, right? My mother always thinks I'm the only Black lesbian, as she says, that she knows in this world, right? My grandmother, when I came out, my grandmother was like, "You are the only one," right? So my family still thinks that I am the only Black gay woman that they know, but they're getting better, right? But I claim it. And so for any of us else who are out there, welcome. I'm a woman. That's how I move through the world. I definitely define myself as a woman, and I use she and her pronouns. I'm a mother. This is a new identity for me because I just became a mom 2 years ago. I'm Jamaican, right? And I grew up working class. So I feel because I grew up working class, I move through the world in that lens of definitely seeing things through that and being very aware of like class, money, power. That is something that really, truly defines me, right? And then I think I told you guys I have separation and abandonment issues. For all of you therapists out there, I've spent a lot of money with you guys to figure this part out. And I'm a big advocate for it. My mom left me in England with my grandmother when I was 8 years old. And I was separated from my mom from 8 to 12 years old. And so I tend to always be trying to find home. And before I did all of my therapy and before I did all of my work that I continue to do, I realized one of the biggest things that I did was trying to find home in others instead of trying to find it within myself, right? Because I was so desperate to feel wanted, needed, loved, seen, and to create family. So a lot of times when my stuff comes up for me, I go, oh, okay, what is this about for you, Trey? Is this your separation and abandonment issues, right? Anybody can relate to that? Anybody, right? Because we got to do our stuff. We got to do our work, right? So this is who I am. And I always ask people to just think about, like, as I'm talking, what identities do you claim? And what identities do you see the world through, your lenses, right? Because all of those identities shape how you move through the world and what actually becomes a truth for you, right? Okay, Lauren, go ahead. So when I first came out, right? And this is something that I think we need to speak about, right? Is that a lot of times we don't want people to show up as their true, authentic selves, right? So a lot of us will talk about, oh, I accept people for who they are. I love everybody and blah, 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 and whatever, right? And what I've realized for a lot of people is that they don't want to talk about intersectionality, right? And especially for me as a Black woman, right? One of the biggest things that I say, I move through the world as a Black queer woman, right? So when I first came out, I realized a lot of times when people ask me to speak, right? I would have a lot of women's organizations. And if they were mainly led by white women, they would say, oh, we want you to come and talk about being a woman, right? Please don't focus a lot on the race stuff. We just think we're all women, right? And I kind of go, oh, that's not quite right? That I cannot separate from myself being Black and also being female, right? And then when I would go to Black organizations, they would go, okay, well, can you just speak about you being Black? And can you not talk about the queer thing too much? Because that makes us a little uncomfortable. This isn't about you being gay. So can you speak about just how you moved through the world as a Black woman, right? And then when I would go to speak at LGBTQ events, they would say, we love to hear about your journey as a gay woman, right? So I always felt for the longest time that I had to split myself up in various pieces to make people feel comfortable, right? And I could never show up as my true, authentic self, right? And that also happened within my own family, right? When my show went on the air And I was the first Black woman in Canada to have a TV show on the air. My grandmother was very proud, and she would, she would take out of her purse all of these paper clippings of me in the newspaper and everything. And she would talk about everything. But my grandmother would never talk about me being gay, right? And any articles that mentioned that I was gay, she would never, ever, ever clip those ones, right? And I found, right, for me, it always came down to what pieces are acceptable for others. And I found because I was trying to please everyone, it also became really crushing and exhausting for me, because I always wanted to show up. And some of you who are people pleasers, I'm sure can relate. When you're a people pleaser, you kind of gauge what is going to make somebody happy and how you can make them happy. And sometimes that happiness is at, the expense of your own true authenticity, right? So that happened to me a lot. And I couldn't figure out why all of the time I felt exhausted. I couldn't figure out why all the time there was this emptiness in me. And no matter what I did, I didn't feel fulfilled, or I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel accepted. And it took me a long while to figure out is because I wasn't showing up as my true authentic self, right? Anybody can relate? Right? Because a lot of us don't show up in that authentic way. We want to show up in the way that we feel will make people comfortable and love us, right?
Yep.
Slide. Go on. So I came out, right? And when I came out, I always tell the joke how my grandmother said, but you aren't Ellen. Why do you think you are Ellen? That was her big thing, right? And in my community as a Jamaican, right, queerness was very viewed as something, my grandmother said, this is only something that white people do. We don't do that, right? And then my grandmother, the other funny thing she said was, I think you learned that from the white people at work, right? And I was like, really, Grandma? But she really, truly believed that, right? And there was this level of shame in this for her. There was a level of shame for me in it. There was a level of me thinking that this is a part of me that no one can love. So it took a long time. And for any of us who have come out, this, that it's never, ever a whole like, oh, I come out and that's it, right? You come out in various ways all of the time. And one of the things that really shocked me that I wasn't prepared for was after I adopted my son and became a mother, I was shocked at how my queer identity became erased, because people do not associate queerness with parenting. Right? I don't know what they think happens to our wombs. I don't know, right? What people think happen if you're a lesbian, like that's somehow they feel that shuts down. So there's no way you could be a mother and also be gay, right? So I've been finding lately, since I've become a mother, I'm always now defending my queerness because I get read automatically as straight, right? And people will assume there's a husband or there's a dad or there's someone that I'm going home to who has to be male, right? Because there is no way she could have had that child unless there was a man involved, right? So I find my coming out lately has been really rooted in this new identity as a mother. And that was something that I wasn't prepared for, how I'm constantly now read as straight because I'm now a mother, right? So coming out for me has been, as I said, a continuous journey. It's something that I do pretty much every day. Sometimes it gets really tiring. There are days where I correct people. There are days that I don't. There also comes a time too around safety. I'm currently living in Tampa right now, and my son's in school here. And sometimes I have to gauge not only of how my coming out is going to affect me, but also how it's going to affect him. And is this a safe place for both of us now, for me to stand in my queer identity, right? So go on. So when I first came out, I've always been a high achiever, right? And some of us who are A-type personalities, I got a feeling there's some of us on this call right now who can relate, right? Right? Just a few of us, right? Who are A-type personalities, high achievers. Every time somebody reads my bio, I always get somebody who emails me and goes, how do you do it all? Right? And it's because I'm a high achiever. Like that is one of the things I do. And especially when I came out, I remember saying to myself, right, and this was actually led by a conversation with my brother, right, that my brother said, and I will never forget this, when he found out I was gay, he came up to me and he said, finally, you've done something wrong. Finally, you're not perfect. And it really hit me in my heart, right, that he saw this as something that led to me being imperfect. And so I had this silent contract with myself, right? And I sometimes when I do talks, I say to people, you need to really look at the silent contracts you've made for yourself that you're not even aware that you have made, right? In order to please others. So for me, the silent contract was, well, if I'm going to be gay, I'm going to be super gay, right? I'm going to be the kind of gay that people are going to be like, she's phenomenal. Even though she's gay, she's phenomenal. Right? So I got invested in being the best at everything, right? So I thought if I'm highly successful, people will love me and they will be able to overlook me being gay. The other thing that I thought, I'm going to create the ideal envious gay life, right? So I was really invested. When I met my partner, I had this checklist of the type of woman that I wanted to be with, right? And I knew that I wanted to be this super power couple. I remember when I first met her, I said to her, I want us to be a power couple, right? I never talked about, I want us to be happy. I never talked about, I would love to know what your values are. I never talked about, I want you to treat me well. I didn't look at how she treated others. All I knew is I wanted someone to play into the image of my perfection. So I got a woman who was a ER doctor, very successful. She looked gorgeous, all of those things. And I ticked all of the boxes, right? And I remember one day, one of my straight friends said to me, oh, girl, you guys make gay look real good, right? And I just loved that. Like I really was really invested in the image of us, right? And because I was so invested in the image of us, I knew, and some of us can relate to like when you get to a certain age, you decide that you want the house, you want the marriage, you want the kids, you want the dog named Spot, and you will do anything in your power to achieve it, right? And there's this clock going off in your head and you're ticking all the boxes. You want to make sure that you do it. And that was for me. So because I was so invested in ticking off all of the boxes and making sure that my partner and I represented the best the best highlight reel on Instagram, I ignored many red flags, right? Many red flags. And I was the kind of person who, even when the flag came, I'd be like, it's not that red. It looks a little burgundy. And if you put on your sunglasses, it could look a little pink, right? Any of us have ever been in that situation where you ignore a lot of red flags because you so desperately want to make sure that you are staying on track of the perfect timetable that you have decided your life needs to look like, right? So there I was. Go ahead, Lauren. I was in this relationship. I was checking more on Facebook and Instagram of how many likes that we got on Facebook and Instagram every time we posted a picture than I actually was checking in with myself. I never once asked while I was in that relationship, was I indeed happy? Was this a person who I felt respected me? Was this a person who I felt really loved me unconditionally? Was this a person I even liked? And was I a person I even liked when I was with this person, right? And I kept thinking all of the time as I was in this relationship, it doesn't really matter if I'm happy What really matters is how this all looks, right? And I was really invested in that, right? And one of the things that I always ask now when I'm working with clients and when I'm working with women, I always say to them, if there was nobody judging you, what would you change about your life? What would make you happy? Does it matter that you're making 6 figures a year? Would you be happier, living in a little cottage and making 30,000 a year, right? Are you happy in the job that you have? Are you happy with the person who you look over in the bed and you're like, I would pick and choose you over and over again, right? Are you happy? And I think a lot of us do not do that check-in. And also when we do that check-in, we're not doing it on a regular basis. Because I always say to people, if there's one thing I've learned in this process now, what I wanted to make me happy a month ago sometimes looks different next month. What I thought was going to make me happy last year looks a lot different this year, right? And we have to give ourselves permission as women to be able to reinvent, right? And reimagine what happiness is and can look like for us, right? And I think a lot of us are scared to actually sit in the silence of that, to kind of figure out, does this life that I'm living currently, am I truly happy, right? Next slide. So for me, the biggest thing that happened for me was my life blew up in my face. And I think I write about it in my book, Black Girl in Love with Herself, where I talk about Oprah, right? Where Oprah says that, I'm sure you guys know this one, where she says, like, the universe sends you a little message, right? And sometimes the message is a little pebble, right? And then the pebble becomes a stone. And then if you don't listen, the stone becomes a rock. And then the rock then becomes this whole damn brick that just hits you upside your head to say, hey, you gotta stop this, right? And for me, the rock and the pebble and the brick all came all at once and my whole life crumbled, was my partner sent me a text, and it's all in this book. I'm giving you the Coles Notes version. My partner sent me a text 2 days after we had brought our son home. I had a 2-week-old baby, and my partner sent me a text and said, I no longer want to do this. And I was stunned out of my mind. I was like, what do you mean you no longer do this, right? And my whole life fell apart. I was given 14 days to move out of our apartment. We were about to head into a pandemic. I had nowhere to go. I was a mess, and I was worried constantly about money, because how I make my money is as a speaker, as a writer, as writing TV shows, doing TV, and all of the productions that I was involved in, all of them were shutting down. And no one had any answers about when things would begin again. All of my speaking gigs had gotten canceled. And I was used to having a 2-income family, right? A very high income family, right? And my partner made way more money than me. And I had become really financially, right, dependent on her. So when all of this was ripped away from me suddenly, right, I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I felt unloved. And the biggest thing that I felt was stupid, right? Like I felt stupid. Like I was like, how did I miss all of these signs, right? And I was really scared to ask for help because I had been this superwoman for so long, right? And I didn't know what to do now that my whole life had fell apart, right? And I didn't know even how to ask for help or what help would look like for me, right? So a lot of times when I talk to women, when we're talking about pivoting and when we're talking about change, I always say to them, why are you so scared to ask for help? and what would help look like for you, because help can look really different for a lot of women and for a lot of people. And for me, because I had no experience to draw from of what help would look like for me, I was really confused about how I could actually ask for the help and support that I needed, right? Next slide. And for me, we've talked about this a lot, and I think it's come up in news a lot, right? Is around mental health for women, right? A lot of times when I'm talking to women and we're asking about, like, what does your mental health look like, right? I think especially for Black women, there's an extra layer, right, of stigma that happens around actually admitting that you're not the strong Black woman. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had my white friends come up to me and go, oh my God, Trey, you're so strong. And that's not helpful to me, right? It really isn't helpful, because I play into that of being strong, and that strong and strength has actually added to my reluctance to actually even name my own mental health. So when my whole life blew up in my face, I had no idea that I had fallen into a deep depression, right? I had no idea. I didn't recognize that I felt for some reason that when people spoke to me, I felt like I was actually going through mud, right? That's the only way to describe it. I felt that something as simple as making up my bed, loading the dishwasher, feeding my baby, felt like it was this huge weight on me, right? I could not, I was crying all the time. I wasn't sleeping. I had insomnia. I'm the type of person, the more stressed I get, the more I eat. So I'm a stress eater. So I was stressing eating. And all of these signs were signs of depression and anxiety. And I didn't know. And a lot of times when I'm coaching women and I ask them about their mental health, what I recognize a lot too is that this has become the norm for so many of us that we don't even actually recognize that this isn't normal, right? So I always say to women, if you're talking about self-love and you're talking about self-care, you really need to take a mental check at, do you possibly have depression? What does anxiety look and feel like in your body, right? Do you have insomnia? And addictions? Addictions could be so many things. From eating, for me, my addiction definitely is food, right? There could be exercise. It could be you being a workaholic, right? It could be sex addiction. It could be all of those things. It could be drugs. What are you actually running from? And what are you masking in order to create this impression of happiness in your life, right? Next slide. So I wrote a whole book called Black Woman, If I Was a Black Girl in Love with Myself, right? Black Girl in Love with Herself. And yes, the question is, and it's something that came up for me as I was writing this book, when my partner walked away, I recognized for myself that the biggest lesson that I learned in this, and I talk about it in the book, is that I had given away my own power to someone. So when she walked away and said she no longer loved me, I didn't think that I was lovable. I didn't think I was worthy enough. I didn't think I was valuable enough, right? And I had to really go back and look and say, what would loving you properly look like, Trey? Right? And I don't think we ask that question of ourselves enough. How many of us sit with that question, right? To say, what would loving you properly look like? And I think one of the biggest disservices we have done as women, I love Shonda Rhimes to death and I love Grey's Anatomy, but I think all of us can recite that damn scene in Grey's Anatomy when she is like, I need you to pick me, choose me, right? And we feel it's the biggest love scene in the world, and it's the best messaging that we could give to women. And I say it's one of the worst things we can do, is wait for somebody to pick us. Because if we are not being picked, if we are not being chosen, then what does it tell us, right? And so the thing that I've learned the most, and I talk about it in the book, is I'm no longer waiting for somebody to pick me or choose me. The only consistent person I know who will constantly show up and pick me and choose me is myself, right? So I really want you to sit down today and after this talk to think about, how important is it for someone to pick you? How invested have you been in someone picking and choosing you and saying, hey, you, I pick you. So therefore, because I pick you, you are valuable. And when that person walks away, where does that leave you, right? Next slide. So the biggest thing that I've asked, and I talk about it a lot in my book, is around creating safe spaces, right? We need to create safe spaces not only for ourselves, but for others, right? We have to really think about what does safety look like and how do we create community, right? And how do we empower other women to show up the best way possible, right? A lot of times I get asked to come in and talk about diversity and inclusion. And often I hear white women will say to me, like, I want to be an ally, but I don't know how to be an ally. I want to really champion diversity, but I don't know how to do that. I sometimes feel like I'm putting my foot in my mouth. How do I create safe spaces, right? And I always say to women, right, especially white women, I say it has to be very intentional, right? It has to be something where some of the conversations may make you uncomfortable. It also has to look like sometimes you have to say, I may say the wrong thing. And if I am saying the wrong thing, can you please let me know how to say the right thing? It also means sometimes that you have to do the education of educating yourself to create safe spaces for all women, right? And we also have to take a look at who gets to sit at the table, who gets to be heard, who gets to invited, and what does visibility look like, right? So, because I always say to women, and this is something that I've learned along my own journey, right? That until all women feel visible and heard and seen, it is not enough for me to say I need to create a safe space for myself, right? I recognize my privilege, right? I'm a woman who walks through the world. I'm an able-bodied woman. I make good money. I have an accent that is quote unquote acceptable for others. I'm educated. All of those things are privilege, right? And how do I allow other women who may not have the same resources and the same contacts and the same ability to also feel safe in spaces that I create, right? So that is something that I'm very conscious at all times of how I speak, what I say, who gets invited. And I think the biggest lesson I've learned the most is sometimes the best thing to do is to actually speak last and make other people, especially those people who have less power than you, to be able to take up the conversation and lead the conversation, right? And that is something that is definitely a skill, because a lot of times when we're actually listening, we're listening to respond instead of actually listening, right? So that is something that every time I talk about inclusivity and diversity and safe spaces, not only for myself and others, that I talk about, are we really creating spaces for other women to sit at, right? Go ahead, Lauren. And the biggest thing that I love to talk about is we must all admit that we carry our stuff, right? Are you willing to unpack it or pretend it does not exist? And checking yourself before you wreck yourself, right? And I love to give this example of how I, Miss Trey Anthony, who talks about exclusivity, inclusivity, and who talks about creating safe spaces and self-love and awareness for others, I sometimes fail, right? And I give this example a lot to others because I want people to know that it's okay to say that you can make mistakes, right? You can make mistakes in how you love yourself. You can make mistakes in how you show up for love. You can make mistakes in how you create safe spaces for others. You know, my biggest mistake was investing in someone who wasn't invested in me, right? And I give the example again of sometimes bias, my unconscious bias plays up. There was an example a few years ago, I was hiring for a personal assistant, right? And I interviewed a young Black girl, right? And when I interviewed her outside at my office. And what I needed her to be was my personal assistant. So I didn't invite her to my home, right? And at that time, I was living in my home with my partner, and we had a beautiful home. And I say this because I want to give you the context of it. It's not to brag or boast, but it was a gorgeous home. And the second interview, I said to this young woman to come to my house. And she showed up at my house. And when she showed up at my house, we were sitting in the living room, and she would not make eye contact with me. And I kept thinking to myself, this isn't the girl who was, you know, at my office, who was so vibrant and so amazing and so wonderful. And I was like, I think I made a mistake. Like, why is she acting like this? And she kept looking down, and she kept kind of looking around the house. And me, Miss Trey Anthony, who grew up working class, who maybe 20 years ago was in this exact same spot as this young girl, I said to myself, I cannot trust her. I think she's planning on robbing me. That's what I said. I kid you not. I looked at her and I said, this is why she's not making eye contact. This is why she's all shifty and nervous. Oh, I don't trust her, right? And I immediately made the decision that I wasn't going to hire her because I didn't trust her. My gut told me she was up to something, right? And the next day, I sent her one of those polite emails, you know, those emails where you send about like, don't call us, we'll call you, and basically told her she didn't get the job. And she sent me an email back, and she said, Miss Anthony, can you give me a call? I just want to talk to you. Can you just give me 5 minutes of your time? And there was a part of me was like, oh, I don't want to waste my time with this. I need to be looking for a personal assistant. I don't have time to hear her damn sob story. Like, I got to find me somebody. And I was just like, you know what, Trey, give her 5 minutes. What's 5 minutes, right? And I called her, and she said, I really blew that interview, didn't I? And I said, yeah. I said, I don't know what happened, but you were off. Like, what happened? And she said, I came to your house, Miss Anthony, and I was looking around your house, and I got overwhelmed. And I kept thinking to myself, it's possible for me, someone like me, to have this. Because look at you. You came from Rexdale, the Toronto projects. You made it, you're self-made. You have this beautiful home. And she goes, I'm right now in a 1-bedroom apartment with my grandmother and my brother, and you are in a 5-bedroom home. And when I looked around your house, all I kept thinking, it's possible. Someone who looks like her made it out. And I recognized for myself, and I was so embarrassed that instead of seeing a young girl who was actually feeling inspired, right? And feeling that there was a world of possibility because she saw someone like me make it, I played into every single stereotype that had been placed on me as a young working class Black woman. And I give you this example because I want you guys to know that even the most conscious of us makes mistakes. The most conscious of us carry our own stuff and our own baggage. And even though I do this work every day, I had fallen prey to all of the stereotypes and all of the injustice and all of the other stuff that happens to Black girls, right? I place that, me, myself, onto another young Black girl, right? And so whenever I hear women and people say, oh, well, no, I love everybody and I don't have my stuff, I go, it's impossible. We all do. And the only way we are going to create safe spaces is if we name our stuff and we publicly have conversations about how our stuff has impacted other women, right? So I really hope that you know that we are always constantly working on our stuff every single day. And the only way we could create spaces of love and care is if we recognize that, right? Next slide. So what do we need to learn? We need to learn empathy for each other. When we talk about the journey of love and self-care, we need to not only learn empathy for ourselves, but we have to learn empathy for others. We have to learn to listen. We have to be recognizing our own vulnerability, recognizing our privilege. We need to be taking action steps around actually loving ourselves and loving each other more, right? Do your words match your actions, or is it just on Black History Month? And then the biggest thing for me is integrity, right? What do you do when no one is watching, right? What are you saying, not only about others, but also what are you saying to yourself? My biggest thing that I've learned in my self-love journey is to hold myself in a level of integrity with myself. I keep my promises to myself, but the promises to myself around exercising every day, around meditating, right? Around speaking kindly to myself. All of these things are part of my self-help journey. And so I think a lot of us have to be in spaces where we actually walk with a level of integrity, right? Next slide. And I'm going to leave with this, right? And it's apart from the book, right? And it's one of my favorite parts in the book because I think it tells me a lot about my own journey in love, right? And I always say to others, like, I try to really walk through this world with a level of tenderness and compassion for not only myself, but for others. I also know that I'm constantly learning and evolving. I'm knowing that I will mess up. There's always an opportunity to learn, heal, and forgive myself and others. And knowing I intentionally create safe spaces for not only myself, but also for others. And this is a part in my book where I'm going to end with today. And it's on page 216. And it says, months before my life blew up in my face, my shoulder-length locks, which had been my pride and joy, started to split in the middle. They would break off and I would find pieces of my weak hair in my bed or scattered throughout my fancy luxury apartment. This was truly distressing for me, and I couldn't find or figure out why this was happening. Also, my favorite plant, which I had carried around from home to home, and which now stood nearly 4 feet tall, just stopped growing. I would water it, and I even repotted it, and it would not grow. The plant had always grown and loved the light and water, but now it remained unmoving and stagnant. Once my relationship ended and I moved into my new home, my hair stopped breaking and started growing like a weed. The plant magically started producing new leaves and tiny red flowers that I had never seen before. I could not help but think this is symbolic of my journey. My hair will grow when I have emotionally grown. New flowers will bloom when they feel safe. The lesson was, I cannot grow where I do not feel safe, heard, and seen. I cannot grow where I am not watered. I cannot grow where there is no lights. And I realize I should always be moving towards the lights, creating light for myself, but also creating life for others. So I hope and pray that as a community of women, that we will always be looking for the lights, not only for ourselves, but also for others. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you guys today. And you can find me at Black Girl in Love, Trey Anthony, all of these things. And yeah, I'd love to answer any questions. Thank you.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this afternoon with us. And we will take some questions. As you were talking, Trey, I was remembering, because I read the book quite a while ago. Do you see my tabs? Like, I resonated so highly with so many things in your book, from your relationship with your grandmother to the close-knit family, just really so many things. So if you're not familiar with Trey's book, I highly recommend it. And as I said, you can see everything that resonated with me. Are there any questions? Do you want to raise a hand? Or I know we are at 5 o'clock, like magically. You were like magnificent with your timing of this. And I'm just going to read to you. She's dynamic. Thank you. I have to leave. Hold on. She's dynamic, Lauren. I have to log off for my 5 p.m. patient, but we'll certainly buy a few copies of the book. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And then thank you. This was great. Thank you. This was amazing. Thank you for inviting me. This has been really thought-provoking. Someone texted me on my other phone, like, I have to go, I have a session, but thank you so much. This was very thought-provoking and inspiring. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Looks like Deborah has a question, Lauren.
Oh, feel free to ask.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Hi, I so enjoyed listening to you. I too can relate to having the baby and having the same experience. And also being, by it one part of my lifetime. What I'd like to know where you stand as far as your spiritual growth, helping you through this journey of self-love.
That's such a great question.
I've learned a lot through that.
Yes. I truly believe, Deborah, if it wasn't for spirituality, I don't think I would have gotten up from that bathroom floor. The day when my partner sent me that text, I literally was on the floor crying.
Me too.
And I heard a voice that said, get up and talk the truth and tell others the truth of what you've learned, right? And talk about the shame of this. And as I was going through this at all times, I kept saying, there's a reason why God has made this happen to you. There's a reason. And it's because you have to learn about yourself, but you also have to teach others how to find themselves. And I pray every single day. I meditate, I listen. I do believe that what has happened to me was because I needed to share this message. And there was no way that I could have written a book in the middle of a pandemic with a 2-week-old baby, going through a breakup, being diagnosed with depression, if there wasn't a higher power that led me. That's exactly the only thing I can say, that it had to be something higher than myself that wanted me to be able to share that message. So I'm very invested in my spirituality and growth. And I have a relationship with someone or something higher than me. And I do believe, yeah,
we're so limited. All I heard about was really kind of, the amount of things you had and the people. And I didn't hear any mention of the divine kind of interceding in that process. So that's why I was curious, because I felt like that had to be part. I was limited in what I knew and could do. And I had to get some extra power from the divine.
And I truly do believe that it was the divine that knocked me off my high horse, because I had lost touch with that. I was so invested in material things. I was so invested in the image. I was so invested in the money and the beautiful cars and the fancy kitchens. And I had lost contact with that part of me that was grounded in something more, right? And so that's an amazing question. But yeah, I had lost touch with that. And this experience has brought me closer to my spirituality.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for answering that.
No problem. Thank you. Great question. Great question. Thank you.
Any other questions before we say goodbye? I'm just like, yeah, it's 5:05. So just to be mindful of everybody's time. This was so incredible, Trey. You are an inspiration.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for having me. I really enjoyed it. Lauren, thank you for your just tenacity of making it happen and how persistent you were.
Hey, look
oh my gosh, you have some divine power working through you. That's all I can say. Definitely.
She does.
Right.
I'm really, there are so many special people on this call, and I just have to make a shout out that this, I think we had like 40 people, and like it was this was so fun to promote. And so I knew I was in flow, So
good.
So everybody here, like I know people are going to walk away and it's going to have a trickle out effect.
Oh, great. That's so important.
I mean, I know that looking at these names and these faces. So my heart, it's not about me, but I am feeling so much love and possibility. Like together, guys, we can make change in this world, for the better.
Definitely.
So.
Trey, question about your book.
Yes.
Where's the best place to advertise for folks where you would get more of the benefit of a book sale? Promote your book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You could get the book. It's anywhere books are sold. There's also an Audible book, which people really love because the Audible book has an interview with my mother and sister. And I'm actually reading the Audible book. So it's also at Barnes and Nobles. It's at Target, which
Amazon,
all of those places. Yeah. So, and if you want to buy anything more than 30 books, you can also email me directly, and we do like big groups sales, and you get a discount for 30 books or more. I send you directly to the publisher because we just got an order from 2 universities who ordered 150 books each.
Awesome.
And discount. Yeah.
Okay. But your website would be a good source as well.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Thank you. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you just reminded me, if anybody's interested in leading a book club, there might be several participants. So reach out to me and we can coordinate. And then maybe if there's enough people who want to read the book and have some discussion, maybe we can get Trey back. I don't know,
Maybe.
I don't know. So.
Maybe get your people to call my people, Lauren.
Okay. So yeah, and so Trey's website is treyanthony.com.
Yes.
And so guys, wishing you all love and light, and just thank you for being here, and give yourself extra self-love.
Extra self-love. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Lauren and your team. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Take
Bye everyone. Take care.